Hello, this video is going to cover how to true a brake disc rotor. Now, if you've got a bike with disc brakes, like a lot of road bikes come with now, if you had a mountain bike or a hybrid, the chances are you've had brake discs for a little while. And all the same things apply basically whichever bike it is. Personally, I like small rotors on a road bike. The 140 rotors are quite adequate on my bike despite my weight, but I don't tend to ride the Alps anymore, so that's not too much of a problem. If I was riding out in the Alps again with long descents, I might be tempted to go to a 160 or a 180 rotor on the front. I've certainly ridden mountain bikes out in the Alps on long downhills which had 200mm rotors, but the bikes were a bit heavier, and back then I was a bit lighter. But it's nice to have the braking capacity or the resource when you need it. Anyway, there's a couple of ways you can do this, and all of them are effective if you have a bit of patience. Now, I'm showing you how I do it on a wheel truing stand, purely because I've got a wheel truing stand and my eyesight isn't very good for looking at forks basically away from the wheels. Now, the reason why I say that is if you try to true a disc brake on a bike with a fork on it, with the wheel still in the fork, it can be done, but if your eyesight's a little bit dodgy like me, I'm quite short-sighted, I tend to take my glasses off to see things up close, and when I do that I found my head bouncing off the spokes as the wheel's going around when I'm trying to see it. So it's not a recommended one if that's an issue. So for me, the wheel stand with a dial gauge gives me all the information I need to know without me stepping too close to it. Now, the dial gauge on this particular bench is up to 10mm, and obviously we're measuring fractions of that. It's less than a mil basically, each one of these segments on this dial gauge. So ideally you'd want no movement whatsoever, but that's quite difficult to do. Basically what I'm after is less than half a mil or so, which I actually got by the end of this. Now, it can be frustrating, and it's very easy to do this the wrong way and overcompensate, but you really don't have to give it too much muscle power basically to get the correction that you want, as you'll see as the video goes on. Anyway, I'll go through the video right now. I did record it out in the conservatory, and it was getting hot, and I had the fan on, and the audio that I recorded in there with the fan was quite frankly horrible, with the racket of the fan going on in the background. So I've redone the audio to make it a little bit easier. Anyway, here we go. Now, as you can see here, I've got the dial or the disc, the wheel rotating in the wheel stand, and I've got high spots. There's a few here. It's not as bad as I thought it was actually. It was chinging quite a bit earlier on when I took it out for a ride, and it did need some work, but I did a lot of the work before I thought I'd do a video about it, so it's largely corrected, but you can still see the general high spots at that point there. If there's any movement whatsoever in the dial gauge, the idea is to just tweak it a little bit at a time until you get a fairly flat surface. Now, I've got here more or less than half a mil of basically just runouts on the disc itself. So it's not too bad. I've had other rotors where, well, I had a rotor a while back which I'd left the bike leaning up against something and it slipped, and the rotor had a little impact with the shelf basically on its way down as it slipped, and that took a while to sort out a bit. But here I'm correcting the dial gauge and re-zeroing it here because I've actually moved it as I've been moving around behind it. The actual base is magnetic, and it can be a little bit easy to knock if you're clumsy, and I am clumsy. So here I'm re-zeroing it, but as you can see, once I've re-zeroed the gauge, it's pretty good. It's much better than it was anyway. And it is very, very irritating when you're listening to your bike and you can hear this ching and ching and ching, and sometimes you can pull the front brake on or the back brake on, and you can eliminate it until the next time you pull the brakes on. The reason for that is the pads actually move from side to side each time you press and release it. So if it happens to be released in the high spot, that's the noise that you'll get again. So it's well worthwhile zeroing disc brakes. You can buy new ones if you want to, but generally speaking, I like to use my brake discs until they're completely worn out or until they've gone past the thickness warning, basically, because it does affect the way the calipers work as well when they pinch. So you don't want to get them too thin, but generally speaking, I tend to look after them. This, as far as I'm concerned now, is pretty good. Um, there is very slight movement there, but it's going to be more than acceptable. So that's basically it. So you just need a flat spanner like I've got there, or adjustable spanner. You can use that to do it. You can actually buy tools that will actually do the same job, but you don't really need it, to be honest with you. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Goodbye.